I don't want it to be just us talking, definitely. I want this to be a big community thing. But generally, we just want everyone together, which is cool because people are already coming together. It's really nice. But to kind of focus on a topic and talk about that, with the idea being this is like one of those when you're at a convention and it's kind of 1 a.m. and everyone's a little bit juggled out. They've just had a cup of tea or a beer, and then they start talking about the big philosophical things in life and contact in particular. And what do we want to talk about this week? Kind of the state of contact now and the trends that have kind of gone through contact and led up to it, and what's influenced it and who's influenced it and why we've ended up where we are and where we're going, because that's an area that I'm super uninformed about. It's sort of what's happening now and where we're going.
Right.
Hey.
Yes.
On the audio.
Brian's here.
And yeah, who's this handsome chap?
Who are you talking about? Robert there.
Oh, it's good
Hello,
to see you,
hello.
mate.
There we go. Hello, hello.
And oh yes, Greg's there, and a dog.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I gotta show you that.
Right on cue. Hey guys.
Yo, is that pearlescent?
Yeah. Oh, that one's
It-
an LED one.
It's glow.
It glows.
Yeah.
It is.
Awesome.
Drew's
It
trying
is.
to Drew's trying to join, and I'm struggling to help him. So I'm on pause for a second.
Oh, that's fine. No. Yeah, we want more Drew. We want all the Drew. Tell him we need all of Drew right now.
I'm
So,
gonna
yeah.
figure it out last week, but I'll be listening.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. It's good to see you. And yeah. We're going to keep doing these as well. You're
Thanks
busy
for,
making your candles.
I always get my orders during my work days, which are like Wednesday through Friday, and then
Yeah.
Saturday is like the day that I make everything before I send everything out on Monday. It's kind of how it's been working out.
So yeah, full on moment. That's cool. We've got Matt there, but he's visual only. We've got no sound from Matt. He's hiding out.
So everybody's on mute automatically when they come in. They have to.
Oh, I see.
Their...
So he just needs to turn that on, and then we'll have more people, more jugglers. Edinburgh jugglers representing.
Right.
Cool.
Edinburgh's got the crew. Where's Brian? We need to get Brian on here.
Unfortunately, Brian has previous commitments, as he just let us know. So we'll chase him down, and we will drag him kicking and screaming onto the next one. Because yeah, we definitely need some Brian out in here. But yeah. Hey, Matt.
Hiya!
Hey, we can hear you.
I'm split on the phone.
That's all good. Hey, we're getting people together. This is awesome.
We got quite the crew this week.
Boom. Yeah. We're going to keep this going and hopefully keep people coming in and doing stuff.
Because what happens when everybody's forced to be home?
Exactly.
Right.
Everyone has cabin fever, and this is a good way to use it up. I'm surprised no one's been posting that Muppets cabin fever song, because that's all that's been going on in my head. The Muppets Treasure Island, we've got cabin fever. Yeah, that's all I can think about.
You might be the only one who knows that song, man.
Post that, and yes, you'll understand what I mean. Sure. So yeah, so like I was saying, nothing going on there. Nothing happened. We were going to talk some themes, and we're going to go back in time. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that has brought us to where we are now, like in contact, if we even know where we are now, and like some of the stuff that's been influential to all of us, and like what's been going on. So I guess a good opening question to kind of ask around the table is, what was your first encounter with contact? And I'll throw to you first, Diz, if we're using forum names, Teresa, because you're the top there. What was your first moment where you're contact's a thing that I'm going to do, that I'm going to care about?
I had seen Labyrinth before, but it didn't occur to me that it was something to learn. Because movie effects. But when I first ran into it was at the Renaissance Fair in Arizona. It's a rather big one, and Tryout Toys had a booth.
Yeah, Michael Glenn.
Tryout Toys.
So Mike and Jenna Ferry had a little tent where they're showing how to do the flip flop.
Yeah.
So my kids were struggling with it, but I got it right away, the second attempt. And I have been historically extremely clumsy, and I was just thrilled to actually be able to do something that took coordination, so I was hooked.
I hope you rubbed it in their faces, just doing it in front of them, going, you can't do this yet, can't even do this. I presume that's what parenthood's like.
Oh my gosh. So since that's the only thing I knew, I practiced that one trick for a year with any ball I could find, especially tennis balls. And then I found those rubber bouncy balls from the dollar store, and that's all I had. And then when I went back to the Renaissance Fair, I got a ball and a video from Mike and
they had their spear play.
I found .org when I was searching the internet for anything regarding, because I was looking for spear play.
Yeah.
And it was the second page of Google that I found .org.
Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting that it was actually an in-person thing. Just quickly, as it's going around in my video here, I'll throw in that's actually how I came across contact as well. I'd seen Labyrinth as a wee little kid, but didn't really remember it, apart from a few little flash moments. But I saw Ewan, who is a really good Scottish contact guy who does lots of club stuff and clowning stuff now. But he was just doing a charity gig outside, and it completely blew my mind. Yeah. And so that was a lot of my fundamental stuff. Is my early style was really based around seeing what he was doing. He was even already at that stage into kind of quite isolation-y stuff and big roles and things. So that was kind of my view. And then being in Edinburgh, seeing people, there are lots of performers in Edinburgh just doing contact stuff. So so I kind of, again, went through it kind of in person, which isn't, I don't think, necessarily the most common way, but who knows? Maybe we'll see. Robert, how did you come across it?
Wow. So, how old am I now? I think a long time ago, Seagate Festival. So because I started off doing Diablo, and I got good at it quite quickly, and I was just traveling and I was at Seagate Festival, which is a music festival in this island in Budapest, absolute chaos. And it had this sort of circus space. It's a small circus shop, and they do juggle performances. And I saw this contact juggler, and looking back at it, it wasn't really a great performance, but he had these acrylic balls, and that really captured me. So I bought a stage ball, which they also sold acrylics, but still I first bought a stage ball, and I just spent a long time just doing this, and that was the idea that I got to it. And when I got home, because I learned all Diablo from the internet. So I just went to look for, is there a website with tricks, and I found .org. But I also found a ministry. So my big inspirations very early on were Ed and Colin. So that really I really had in the beginning a very strong focus on isolation styles, and maybe balances, not that much body rolling. That took me a while, and also I didn't have anybody to learn from. Contact jugglers in the Netherlands were hardly any.
Did you ever meet Tom, who was Mott on the forum? And I'm blanking on the other guy's name because I never met him, but they were Netherlands based, but maybe they were kind of out of it by the time you got in.
No, they were like about to get out. I know them and I've met with them a couple of times, but every time we meet, they just all end up like smoking a bunch of weed and like occasionally pulling out a multiple set. There's not like that much hardcore juggling going on.
How dare they adhere to European juggling stereotypes?
I know, right? All the weed smoking.
But that's really interesting. Like, and it's something we'll come back to. But yeah, that you came into it post ministry when a lot of this isolation stuff was kind of in the mainstream. Like, I want to talk about that a bit more. So that's really cool. I want your feedback on that. So Brian, how about you?
I came into it in a not super unique way, I suppose. I was kind of second wave. Like I remember seeing the Labyrinth as a kid and saying, "Oh man, that thing with the ball! Like, I wish that was real. I wish that wasn't just special effects. That'd be super cool." And then I saw the movie several times throughout the years, and always kind of thought that's really neat. And then how I got pulled in was actually also how I met Real. Was a mutual friend of ours. He sent her Okotampe's Crystal Pacoon video and was like, "Hey, isn't this cool?" And then she sent that to me and was like, "Hey, check this out. It's really cool." And I was like, that thing from the Labyrinth is real? Like that's actually a thing. And I did some research, and he, I think they, like, Real and my friend Steph might have been conversing about it, and she kind of played the matchmaker and was like, "Hey, this dude is in Vermont." And at the time I was in Massachusetts. And she kind of just played the merry matchmaker there. And then, I got on .org and that's it. And I got tackled by a dog. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
Just all .org from there. This
is so interesting because we've kind of got a timeline going on as well of like the early day, like the Sphere Play and the like pre-YouTube.org for me. And then the ministry with Robert, and then Okatampe with you. It's like we can really see this like tracing through.
We need like a last wave.
We definitely need someone who's like super modern, like the Instagram generation.
Right. Yeah.
Like what they've got.
Do they do juggling on TikTok these days, the kids?
Yeah. TikTok is big, especially with like kind of Japanese and Thailand. There's a big Thai community who are super into it. So yeah, it's big on TikTok. Like it's very short, very focused, like confined videos. Which
Robert, who was that group that you introduced me to? And I already can't remember the name.
That's a good thing because I can't pronounce them. But there's this Vietnamese group of contact jugglers, and I think it's like a crew of like 12 people. All crystal.
I've been following
style.
these guys. They've been coming up, like they're working so hard, like together as well, and they're doing really interesting group stuff. I really like it. But like moving around there, Matt, I know that you kind of picked stuff up when we were sharing a bin together.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it started when this like weirdo from my school started doing it, and I moved in with him. And he was you.
Yeah.
And it was just that thing of there were so many props lying about in that flat because we had you and we had Liam. And it was just like one day it was just like, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. That was back.
It was again, that's like a nice little slice of Edinburgh. Had this really good, and still does, like it still has a really good performance scene, and it's very compact. Everyone knows where to go when the sun's out. Everyone goes to the same place to juggle, and there was a really just welcoming group of people who were just happy to kind of spend time with anyone who was interested in contact.
Well, and they're so cultured with the fringe, they don't get a choice with that, right? It's just so
cultured like a yogurt. And Dawn, how did, I mean, I think you've even spoken about this previously on here, but your route into contact's really interesting as well.
Well, yeah. So I had a lover who went to the UK and met Drew, and he learned fire spinning mostly, but he also picked up some contact juggling, and he was just in the rave scene and just having having like a train spotting lifestyle. And then he came back, and I was fighting with him at the time, but he had this really shiny ball, and I didn't want to talk to him, but he had a really pretty ball, so I talked to him, and then I took it and I started playing with it at the beach party that we were at, and I really wanted a behind the neck roll. I'd never seen anybody do anything, and including him, he wasn't very good at it. He doesn't do it any longer. And yeah, I tried to do a behind the neck roll for about 3.5 years with a 2.5-inch acrylic.
Wow.
God.
That was how I learned behind the neck rolls. And so, yeah, there was a few things I learned on the way. There was like 5 GIFs online that I think Ryan and a couple other people had put online.
The GIFs. The GIFs are so good.
Was one, and then Silver put
They're
out
so
a video.
fast.
This was like when .org was downloadable only, before the change of this is like really pre, like 2001, so it's like old forum BBS style thing. And then it wasn't even BBS, it was something else, but anyway, then .org, yeah, so .org pretty much was what actually taught me.
Yeah. Which I think definitely a good chunk of the kind of old school people that's what they learned from with these GIFs. Like Robert and Brian, do you remember those like little tiny 2 frame per second GIFs that were up on .org?
I do, but they were very, what's it called?
Rubbish?
They were all that we had, but at the same time, like YouTube was up and coming, and there were some early other videos starting to show. But I don't know, like for me, I mostly did it off just memory of what I saw other people do, or just like, waiting for other people to upload something on the forums, and then just watch all their videos. Like basically every other day I went to YouTube, like upload date, contact everything.
Yeah.
Check out every new video that was there.
Yeah, I was on dial-up when I was first starting, so the GIFs were not helpful because they moved too fast, too blurry, took forever to download. So I mostly did that on the forum.
Which, yeah, like that's really interesting because that was like at that time, if you wanted to learn stuff from anything outside of that, you didn't have anyone in real life. There were the like VHSs and the shiny new DVD technology.
And
so,
the
like,
essay by Kay Varens, that actually helped me a lot.
Yeah, there was the big essay. There were a few text essays on there actually, like teaching things through text.
Ferret's
essays, that was helpful.
And Ryan Mellors as well. His like
4 basic isolations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people learned from like back then. There was the Greg Maldonado like video DVD as well.
That's what I was gonna say. Like I hadn't heard that yet, and how I got started was both. I had never used a message board before. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't really grow up using computers as often. And so when I got started in 2008, I was in Vermont. I didn't have any friends. I wasn't 21, so I didn't really have anything to do. And it was Labyrinth that got me back into it, aware of it. It's like, oh, that's that contact juggling thing. I learned about it in high school. I want to check it out. I found .org and the GIFs. The GIFs were like, there was like the genie roll, and then like all these old silly moves, and that's what I had. But then I looked online and I saw Greg Maldonado's his DVD, and I devoured it as much as I could. I thought, looking back, I thought,
Part 1, because he did 2 DVDs. He did part 1 and part 2, and you're talking about part 1?
Yeah, I never got part 2 because by that point I had joined .org and figured that I could learn everything that was probably on there,
Yeah.
through those people. But I was just talking to Richard Hartnell recently, last year, and something really cool happened in my past that I didn't realize. So Greg Maldonado had a really good friend named Dustin. Oh, what's his last name? Or
Who
Daniel.
that? Oh, okay.
Daniel something or other. He's a really, really, really great contact juggler.
Daniel
Sloan. Daniel Sloan. I met Daniel Sloan at an ex-girlfriend's birthday party, not knowing who he was. I was just going to bring my acrylics, and I was traveling like 2 hours to get there up in Northern California, and I brought my acrylics, and then there was this dude that was just like this great, I'd never seen a contact juggler in person before that. And then he never joined the forums, and I didn't know anything about him until just last year when Richard said that's his homie up in Washington that used to just like hang with Greg Maldonado back in the day.
I'm thinking, is there a video of him on the that old CJC video footage?
There is a tiny bit of footage of him around. He does like a lot of forest. He's a very forest impy kind of guy. I met him because he's like Bellingham kind of dude. He hangs out with the
Lookout Quarry.
The Lookout Quarry people. Yeah. So before the Lookout Quarry was there, I went to a festival 2004 and I met him. He was very good. He always has been since I've known him.
That's yeah. So I'm sure I've got some video there somewhere. I shall find out later. But yeah, so like there were those early DVDs, but I think the big changes in contact, and this is going to be really like interesting, especially for like you guys who came in a bit later, and Greg, like we mentioned this last time, the alarming trend thread on .org.
Which is why we started talking about it today.
Yeah, which like that led into today's discussion. It's like there was a time when isolation was completely separate from the rest of contact. And the idea of dancing with a ball was kind of a new and, for some people, undesirable thing as well.
Yeah, I wonder if some people thought it was taboo a little bit because you were starting to cross mediums a little bit. I think some people were like really purist and wanting to keep it separated.
Which, have we got a Drew?
No,
Hi, Drew.
I'm sorry.
I can see him.
You can see him. He got on.
Yeah, we can see Drew.
We can see you, Drew. Drew, talk to us.
Yay! You're muted, Drew. It's automatic.
So you need to unmute.
You're on 2 screens there, Drew.
Can you hear us? Okay.
But yeah, hopefully we'll hear some in Drew in a moment. Just speak up if you get that working, Drew. We want to hear from you, especially about this, because this was like your kind of field as well. Like this was when everything was kicking off. But yeah, like, so Robert, you came into Contact's isolation was just a thing that was happening. Colin and Ed and Ryan and all those guys were posting up all their mad mixing stuff. Do you remember there being like a tension between the isolation, the dancey stuff, and the more like old school?
I don't remember tension. What I do remember is this clear separate between European juggling and US style juggling. Like I remember, like, you know, when we're going to do a chess roll, like this is not a chess roll, you know, like there was this moment where everything that we did had to be like super tight, and that fitted really well with the isolation thing. Like I remember the first time seeing I forgot a video, I think it was shot in Hull or something like that. I see Colin doing this the bridge roll from like open, but like super tight, like bam bam, and that cleanness that also was in the isolations that later translated into the dance thing. That really, I really saw like that separate thing, and this more go with the flow, which, and we talked a lot about like the American approach, like, you know, it doesn't matter like how you do it as long as you just do it. And even like having like discussions with Janine about this as well, where it's like she gave me this huge hoop. It was like, you have to hold this exactly like this, and now you do a chest roll. And I was like,
I definitely I got not flack, but there was definitely some kickback when I mentioned the chest roll, and then American viewers might recognize this as the chest roll, which was done in good sport.
The Canadian chest roll?
Canadian chest roll. But yeah, because it was super interesting seeing that change, and it was a change. It was like a sea change in Contact. Was you look previously, and Contact was very static, very stationary, and very multi-ball heavy. Like those early years were very
arms.
Yeah, it was staying in the arms, and it was very stationary, very seated and still. And that was where the technical was in multi-ball patterns, like recreating all of the 3-ball patterns that you could, but in multi-ball and that kind of stuff. And then this isolation idea is like this alarming trend. It's just holding a ball and wiggling. And it was really extreme. Like those early videos, people thought this was like a finished thing, but it wasn't a finished thing. It was a work in progress. And then we see by the time that you guys start coming in, that it's become this much more mixed thing. I think Okatampe is such a big part of that. Maybe he was very influential, but that sort of catalogs that style at that moment, that suddenly the stuff that Matt Henham and Nick and Ryan were doing, that was very holding a ball and waving and doing liquid or popping or whatever it is with it, was now becoming just a part of everything in Contact. Like an extra flavor to throw in there.
Yeah, Okatampe kind of made it I guess he was sort of that initial Renaissance man, right? Where he could just do it all, and he could do it all really, really well.
And Moon as well.
Sorry, go on.
Blew me away about what was possible.
That was Moon. Oh, hello.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We've got some
JCJC, yeah.
Some footage. This was, and we're talking about kind of viral videos and things. So there was Beans. We mentioned Beans, and who remembers Beans?
Everyone remembers Beans.
Everyone remembers Beans.
Yeah.
This was the Contact video for so long.
You guys on loop?
Whatever happened to that guy?
Never met him.
He didn't keep juggling as much, we don't think. If you go on his channel, there's a really funny little comedy sketch thing he also uploaded, which I watched the other day. I thought was really good. He's a very funny guy.
It was just such a beautiful video. It was really well shot and really classical style Contact juggling. I don't know what his lineage is, but just that butterfly, back on a consistent basis is such
James Ernest.
So classic. Yeah. 2 balls. That's how I learned. That's exactly what I did as well. I practiced both sides both ways by just going real fast.
Jubbling.
Yeah, so that was a specific moment. Oh, I get it here. Okay.
It's interesting because I don't know. I think that was really widely viewed and really widely shared, but I don't think it was as influential as Okatampe.
No, it's because the isolation was really smooth.
Yeah. No, it's unbelievably still.
And
I do recall the first few times watching the Crystal Raccoon video, I remember distinctly putting my finger on my computer monitor and being like, no, I don't think that's real. Is that real? And seeing if there's any variation in the ball at all. And he was just so solid.
It's good because putting your hand on the monitor because you don't understand it is very much the behavior of a cat as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot more of a simian approach to things, but yeah.
I think, Contact jugglers are actually cats. Clearly.
But yeah, it's so interesting to watch. And like a lot of this stuff is the classic kind of street, like busking stuff as well,
Yeah,
but just presented so nicely.
yeah, this is what Goldie does as well. It's so, but yeah, like that arm roll though, like even with Goldie, even with like all of my practice, I've never achieved sort of Okotampe levels of clean body rolling like that.
And I mean, it's interesting, yeah. So I think this really influenced a lot of people's styles as well. And he got recognition for this, which is great. He got like a really nice TV spot of his stuff. And there's a few people who had that. I know Moon got that as well. Moon got really nice TV stuff, even before the Italy's Got Talent. I'm not sure what their actual translation was of that, but even before that, he got really nicely produced stuff. So some of these viral videos, like they did manage to use it and get stuff out of it. But
something that, a similarity in that was that Moon was also, in a similar way, really, really beautiful with his movements, like the isolation, the slowness, the precise control. I think that really appealed to people, especially like audience members.
I mean, if the thing, and we talked about this when we talked about definitions, if the thing that makes contact is that uncanny, magical nature, which for a lot of people it does, like that is the thing, the point. Those guys sell it so well. Does anyone remember this video?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so this is unlisted. Tom managed to find it, but this one was probably the first one that was like showed me, like this one was before Okotampe in 2005, I believe, like just when that style was coming out. And it was the first like isolated, I think before Okotampe that came out that I'd ever seen. There was some Derbs, I guess, that was coming out, Modern London, the Hangar Fun, the Ministry Classics. But
what I think is really significant, sorry, Don, but what I think is really significant just quickly about this is, so this is like watershed moment, okay? So this is what you learn from like Ryan's 4 basic isolation. It is the isolation style before the dance really got involved. And this is such a nice clean example of that, because at the time, this was beautiful to watch because it was a video of all isolation. It's still really nice to watch now. Like, and Nico's gone so far with his isolation work. Like, his recent stuff has been so good as well. He does lots of hoops, things like that. But this was, yeah, right on that moment before everyone started getting a bit wavier, getting the movement, the stops, the taps. He doesn't at any point do the clawing, like moving around. It's keeping it fixed in one place.
Oh, he does have a string though.
Yeah, like classic old school stuff. This was super influential to me. This was a huge influence in what I was doing. Tilty head and all.
Yeah, the tilty head, your favorite.
But I think that was like, but yeah, like I said, that was hugely inspirational for me. And like, oh, you can just do isolation and it can look really engaging and really good.
I was going to try and put that in the chat, but I'll do that after. It's weird having everyone look at my screen.
Yeah.
You got this. It's all good. Oh.
You don't have one really entertaining tab open, which should be...
I tried to avoid that. Maybe next time I'm going to specifically make one.
Oh.
Lucas's video, isn't it?
Drew's dropping some knowledge from 1999. I'm going to load that up.
Oh, yeah, Juggling TV.
Juggling TV is still going, by the way. Yes, yeah. So
this was one of the first ones that came out like late. So this is a viral video. So I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but like, this started being like the Kuma films and sort of what happened when filming got better.
Yeah, when people actually started investing in cameras and editing. Those Kuma film guys are doing really interesting stuff. And Lucas as well in South America.
I had wondered if this was his video or not, because it looks a lot like his style.
It's not.
No.
It's not. Okay.
No,
But he was also very much into like, I've got a really nice camera and I'm going to show off all of my friends like make them look good kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Bugen video really did that well for
Yes.
me too.
Yeah, it's literally
Yes.
right there too.
That's funny.
Is it that one?
That is that one. Drew's posted in the chat a very distracting but very important thing to talk about is Nick's videos from the time as well. So when Nick was LCD or the Christmas Fairy,
Yeah.
I love those.
the fabulous costumes and just this beautiful waving style, which was, and the gliding. Notice the gliding was just so strong, and that illusion is so powerful.
Okay, we've got this. I can bring
You
it up.
finding that there? Yeah. There's Nika.
I mean, like, this is his work.
Oh god, yeah. And I can't hear it, but I'm sure it's got the sound effects as well.
Yeah, I'm trying not to put the music
No,
on.
it's good. It's good.
Yeah, but yeah, extra special stuff, and he shared a video this week of himself in isolation as well, and it's still really neat to see because he is just, you know, where this all began. Why
I
this
know, and like on
alarming
heels like this.
It's either in heels or in gigantic boots.
Yeah,
and doing like,
that's what I mean.
it's crazy. Like, and such an inspiration as well. Like, we wouldn't have Contact wouldn't be the shape it is now without Nick's insane contribution.
Yeah.
And not just the peach, Drew. I know that's what you were going to write. Yeah.
Does anybody have anything to say about any of that? Like, we kind of just shared with, like, dropped lots of bombs, but is there any words about that evolution and sort of what happened, that change that happened 2004, 2006 kind of? We were talking.
I think it's interesting how the focus went from isolation to dance.
Oh, yeah.
So for the longest time, it's how solid can you make your isolations? And then it became, well, what else can you do? How can you integrate this into other arts? And
yeah, like
that's how contact juggling has transcended. It's more than just contact juggling. It's contact whatever prop you have at hand.
Yeah, it's so true. Seeing isolations like appearing. I know, again, Drew, you kind of putting that work into poi isolation and stuff. And in the early days of like, how can we apply this theory, these ideas to other props and stick? And then we see so much in like Bugang and in club as well. Like isolation's really spreading out into other things.
Well, that was also one of Peach's strong points, I think. Is that guy would just isolate any. I mean, wasn't there a video of him in a restaurant, like isolating forks or spoons or something?
I mean,
I am not surprised.
Yeah, Peach is a true geek. He sees contact in everything. It's really wonderful. And I mean, that was true. Like, I could tell you lots of stories about Mellors and stuff as well. It's just the way that we had our lives for a long time and we were just so obsessed with everything. That's kind of how you get good at this as well, is just by allowing, oh, wow, look at Robert. Robert, you have to talk.
Oh, sorry. No, but it's true. Like, right, the moment when we started, like, just isolate, like the same principles, just go. Like, this is my fitness pants. I mean, it's just pushing down. But yeah, indeed. Like, I remember. That doesn't matter. I remember specifically Drew in isolation having the stick. And he slides like his hand down the stick, like moving upwards, but moving it diagonally. So the stick is horizontally isolated on the plane and the hand moves diagonally across. And like, that was so smoothly done. Like, that was very good. Like, you know, this can happen with any prop, and especially if the shape looks, you know, somewhat circular or rectangular. Like, it's very easy to create the illusion. And I really think that the crossover with dance came more from how can we really make our illusion better? Like, how can we sell it better? So
There's
it's not
this-
like I just want to dance with it, but it's like, how can we really integrate like that there's something happening here? You know,
that was like playing with space as well, that pathways and this graphic manipulation stuff is such a big part of Contact now, that we're not just in this box, but we're actually using the space in an interesting way. And we've got these 3 dimensions. And then with this kind of speed control as well, we add in this kind of 4th dimensional stuff as well, with playing with how our audience using time, like how are they perceiving us moving in time, which kind of, there's loads to talk about that. But the dance stuff, I think, is interesting because we took the term isolation out of dance, but not necessarily in the same way that a dancer would understand it. Like a dancer thinking of exactly, like, make some noise, Robert.
oh, sorry. No. Yeah, you mean like the isolation where we just like move like one part of the body, or like we did all these things where you like point isolation.
Exactly, that idea that
Damn it.
everything locks off, and then it is that one part that moves at a time, even if it's just like isolating a finger at a time. It's where a lot of botting comes from. But then you see it with any illusion-based dance, even like kind of more classical dances, they have body isolation. So that term came in, but it became the ball that was locked, the ball that was fixed in space, and we were moving around it. So it was kind of a natural progression in my head for it to become more dance-focused as well, because then it's not just the prop that needs to have the isolation applied to it. It's everything, and it's the space around us. And it's that's when this stuff starts to make sense and become that next kind of step out from that. And I think that's what people were worried about, was that the focus was going to be lost from the prop. And it can be. I see people when they're getting into this, they lose the focus from the prop. Go on.
We did lose something. Multi-ball.
Yeah.
When everything went to this, all of a sudden, like, all of this, like, let me show you my beautiful prop kind of, like, really got shifted to the side. And we were like, oh, also we can teach this to beginners, and let's all teach beginners isolations because they can do it. So it gives them this confidence, and we'll probably keep them. Oh my God, please let us keep some more people. And in that, we lost, like, multi-ball as a widespread thing. And of course, I mean, there's beautiful multi-ballers in here, but it's something that we lost our focus towards it as a group.
We talked a bit about this when you were over here in Montreal, and I've spoken to Kai Perrins about it as well. Like, multi-ball's weird because legitimately, I think, Drew, your book is one of the best resources for like learning a prop. I think multi-ball contact stands up. But it's so focused. It follows along so nicely. Multi-ball is weird. That can be the quote on the back of the next printing. But your multi-ball contact book, I legitimately, like, I go back now and I look at it, and the stuff that I missed reading through it the first however many times, it's like, no, this is such good advice for any, like, prop. This is such good advice for one ball. This is such good advice for anything, like the thinking through. So we have this incredible resource. And Ryan Mellors as well made his videos, which are an incredible resource for this thing. Better than so many other like juggling things. But even with all this stuff available, we don't see people doing multi-ball. We don't see it. We see it at conventions and things, but it's not as prevalent as it was 15 years ago when it was all anyone cared about.
Is that possibly something to do with the medium of video and like how it's shared online? Because there's a sense in which multi-ball maybe has more limitations in terms of what you can show as a performance piece through video. Whereas with something that has more dance elements, you basically then have free reign to express whatever within that form.
I think you might be onto something there. Multi-ball can be very internal. It can be, people seem to treat it often as more of a meditative thing than a visual thing. But, which I totally agree, and I think that is possibly a good argument for it. but it is really visual as well, because it's so much acrylic in the hands to be like, wow, this is this huge shiny thing. That go, Robert. Yeah.
So it's true what you said. It's very visual, but you don't see 3 rows audience in.
Yeah, it's hard to perform.
It's lost in your hands.
In video, actually, I find the video is effective because I can come right close. But in a stage, I don't practice it because I can't put it on a stage.
To kind of go with a thing that I was super into before I kind of like burned out on a lot of contact stuff a couple of years ago, moving it into this kind of wall plane, this kind of Z-axis. Is that Z-axis or is that just X-axis? Scientists, someone mathematical, tell me. But moving it out of this flat plane and putting everything into this plane here, for me, it was like, maybe this is a way to make it more visual, because then we can start selling some of these patterns that we've worked on so much kind of from the top down and putting them bam there, like in an audience's face, because we can see it more. So I wonder if there's maybe something for that as well, to say, we can present this better, we can present this more clearly.
Now, you did a 30-day challenge on that specific topic, and I want to ask, like, how difficult was that? Because it looked very difficult.
It's actually not that bad. If you're really used to these, and you're very comfortable with these 3-ball kind of lifts and things, essentially it's the same idea. You're moving one out of the way. I'm a little bit rusty because I haven't actually practiced this for a while. But it really sells one of the fundamental things in multi-ball, and again, a thing which, Drew, you stressed a lot in that book, that you can't think, well, you can, but you don't necessarily think of a single object in your multi-ball, but it's the way that everything's interacting at the same time. You're making space for the lower ball to move into while the top ball's moving. If you're trying to think of it separately, you're going to get stuck, you're going to run out of room. So for me, it was really important to have that kind of thinking of, you're always kind of, everything's moving in conjunction with everything else, and that's how you land it. Because, yeah, it's, all you're really doing is you're moving from one position here to this kind of held, like, solid position here, and then down on the other side. And it's just repeating those steps. So it's like a shift from this position to this position. Is kind of all that is.
Once you learn that, you can move everything around to a wall plane.
Everything translates. That's what my 30-day challenge was. It was like, can I do snakes here? Can I do like loops? Can I do anti-spin and isolation patterns? And the answer is yeah, you can present everything face on. My motivation for that was really good. I just kind of burned out with work and stuff. But I know there's a couple of other people. There's damn, I've forgotten his name now. But I'm on Facebook with him. Jérôme, I think.
Can you make a tutorial about it, please?
Do this. Now do this. There you go. Yeah, first you make a 1, then a 2, and then a 1, 2, 3. That's, if you ever watch Marco Paoletti's contact video, he, I love your wall. Marco Paoletti teaches this one. And his teaching is, first you make a 1, then you make a 2, and then you make a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I love that. That's my favorite way of teaching now. It's a beautiful move, though. But yeah.
Other things here. We were going to talk about how In Isolation was this beautiful thing, and Drew, if you find any way to make a watch party In Isolation as a group, that would be amazing. Please, somehow. But that it really, when it came out, there was actually this disappointment because it had been filmed for so long, and it filmed some of the most beautiful contact juggling and all the best contact jugglers at the time, and then it took a little while to come out, and in that time this whole shift happened, and all of this new, oh yay, there it is,
watching party.
And this shift happened, and so it was actually just a wonderful documentation of what was happening at the time, but for us and the experience of it, wasn't sort of pulling us in that new direction and into this dance world. Although there's some really great dance technique. I mean, that was the best of the best at the time. So, but yeah, that's when Ed and Colin and Janine really hit the scenes very hard. And Janine had the epic body rolling, and then Ed and Colin just, it like every time we have these conversations, it sounds like they just influenced everybody. They made such a huge mark on people.
Like that's kind of two subjects around there. Out of the people here, has everyone seen In Isolation?
I don't think
no.
I have.
Did you see it, Roberts?
I own it. It's somewhere like in another country.
And Matt, did I ever show you In Isolation? Or had it been destroyed by the time we lived together?
No, I think we did have it. Yeah, I think we had a copy of it.
Interesting. I definitely had it for a long time. It just, someone borrowed it from the Edinburgh Society, and it got scratched up. But for me, it's interesting what you say, Dawn, that it's kind of like maybe didn't showcase the brand new. For me, it felt like a bit of a validation, though, at the same time. That here's this isolation-based style, here's this contact thing, which has this new shape. And there's this feels like it's maybe just documenting the shape of it now, but it does have a shape that can be documented.
Mm.
So
What's
yeah,
really nice about that video is it's because of it's got different styles. Like Drew's in there for multi-ball, and Peach
jive,
anti-spin. Like that was when anti-spin was just so
Yes.
right. Like that anti-spin has become pretty much the language of the flow arts now, and then into juggling. But Peach at the time that was like. I remember, and Drew was there at EJC 2006 when Peach was trying to explain it with this like overhead camera, and like everybody at the workshop was like, "What is happening?" No one understood it whatsoever, and so that like, and that was a whole other game that came out. That was a totally, perhaps not so alarming trend that eventually ended up taking over.
For sure. Like translating some of these ideas like from multi-ball. And again, it's that there was so much in there, and so much which has been built on, and some stuff which has also been kind of left like it only exists in that kind of DVD, in that kind of world. It's it would be really interesting to watch that again now, with kind of our sensibilities of seeing what the scene is kind of like at the moment and how much came out of that. And it's always interesting watching old videos and thinking, damn, people were good. People were good back in the day. And these are ideas which are totally worth viewing, totally worth expanding on.
Yeah, I think almost everyone in the chat here would feel like, oh, I'm a bit rusty. No, not Robert, no.
So we talked a lot about isolation. We talked about the kind of multi-ball. Like multi-ball is still happening, and people are still doing the big numbers. Like Richard still does lots of really interesting big numbers patterns, and actually does illusion stuff with it and makes it look good. And then the
multi-ball.
You still like the most, so you'll do the multi-ball.
But Kai Saucely still does it a lot.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And again, really interesting.
Geometry, I think, and that helps a lot.
I mean, that's a big selling point of multi-ball. It's like, it is these patterns, and we're moving these patterns and shapes around. Yeah, both of those guys actually really, really interesting kind of contemporary takes on multi-ball as well.
And that's.
I remember Moon, Emmanuel, and Federico. Like a bunch of the Italians, like got really into multi-ball. I think this was starting 2007, and it lasted for quite a long time. Like, and definitely Emmanuel really went to inspire a lot of like the local Italian jugglers.
I think that's so true. Moon, in terms of people who make multi-ball look as like makes it pop as much as say, isolation contacts, like who actually really sell it, Moon is way up there with those big, like 95 millimeter acrylics and things. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh man, those huge, yeah, it's so so wonderful. I mean, and then the next most influential thing that happened was the thing that should not be named.
You're skipping one thing, Don.
Okay.
When the dance isolation thing happened, at the same time, Janine inspired a lot of people to not do the isolation and do the body rolling. And from there, Dan inspired also a lot of people to do the body rolling and eventually move into dance, but more contemporary.
Oh,
that's so true.
There's the biggest influence, of course.
There's something that we didn't mention, which is the Hanger Fun video. Like, that was, again, hugely influential. We all learned the badger dance. One of Drew's prime contributions to the contact juggling arts. Oh, it was lions and tigers, of course. It wasn't a badger dance.
From Kenya.
Yeah, we watched Kenya just like a week ago in this house. It was kind of serendipitous.
It's kind of amazing.
That video is like so huge for me. It was the first time I'd seen contact being fun on a video. And I don't think that can be like underplayed. It was between that and Dawn, your OCCJD video, that really influenced me wanting to put out just silly videos as well. And yeah, like, sure, the levels of skill, like the isolation from Ryan and the mad rolling from Janine, but oh my God, like, just the fact that it was fun and it felt like suddenly, yeah, the space was just so much more open. We could just play around so much more.
It really gave that sort of open freedom, right? Like, as much as you were talking about, like, everything had to be exact and that kind of thing, like, just being silly and laughing at ourselves really became kind of an MO for the community. And that was
some of the community.
Yeah.
Because there is still the push for the very serious contact out there. Ooh, Drew has a good point there.
Oh, baby Don. I mean,
you can follow up with an incredibly embarrassing baby Bryony as well.
That was such a fun video. I would say that's probably my favorite one of you, Don.
It was certainly it was a moment in my life. Like, that one, let's be clear, that was a love letter, very specifically made for a certain person. And it worked. It was very effective. Here, let me see if I can share. I'll share it with you guys. That was when, so I put this out in 2006. I'd missed the Christmas video, and I ended up with going in January, and YouTube came out just 3 months after I put this out. And so I found this really as a marker in time for when we went from like having to download and know how to do all of that, and then going into, oh my God, the 15 minutes of brushing my teeth.
Our safety.
That this marked a moment where all of a sudden all the videos were available on YouTube, and suddenly this was available, and we aren't like, and I say this to a lot of people, like, contact jugglers, we're all sort of the one contact juggler in our city. There's just like one in every city, and this YouTube thing made it so that all of a sudden we were able to easily, user-friendly wise, upload our videos, share our work, and share with each other. And that was like fundamentally changing, not just for us in our community, but everyone, right?
Absolutely.
I'm losing internet a bit. I'm going to be jerky for a moment, but I should be back.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, this is me like really fuffing. Like, I'd finally just got behind the neck rolls at that point in time. and I was so excited about it, I had to share. So that was, it was fun.
Yay.
And the snow. Yeah. There was a few other things, and yeah, that's where I guess the thing that should not be named. Do we name it?
We're gonna do a serious Fushigi breakdown. This is the warning. We need to have that primal scream therapy.
We were kind of hoping to do it next week.
Yeah, if people will be up for next week doing the big Fushigi chat, that could be.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's put another week. We need some maybe alcohol or something.
I'm European.
Yeah.
I had a quick suggestion about the video for next week. So it looks like that Marvin Ong is hosting a giant televised virtual show every single Saturday at this time that goes on all day that hundreds of people Richard Hartnell included, whom I'd like to get in these videos, are all doing. Are we attached to Saturdays?
Saturday or Sunday, because my husband works from home.
We could shift to a Sunday.
Sunday's fine.
Yeah, and Marvin is in Phoenix now, in Mesa, and he's a regular at the circus farm. He's actually invited me to come up a few times, but Phoenix is just far enough away where it's a chore to get up there. Mm-hmm. It's about an hour and a half drive.
Oh yeah.
He's been doing good stuff for kind of building those communities and like keeping people going. It's really cool. It's really cool. But yeah, no, Greg, that's a very good point. And yeah, we could, especially because I think a lot of people have words to say about Fushigi, and I think we want to hear them. So okay, yeah,
people move to Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel.
I think this time works for Europe as well as the state, well, like kind of North America and potentially Australia as well, if people are.
Is that true, Europeans? Is that sound correct? That it works for you guys?
What time is it for you at Robert?
For me, it's 11. But what are we going to do tomorrow? Sleep in, and
Awesome.
But yeah,
every day is Sunday.
I think Australia is early morning.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 8 in the morning there.
Exactly.
Sunday now. But Drew just posted in the chat. Yeah, news from Janine.
I briefly talked with her a bit about it. She showed me pictures of her in a ladder and some balls.
Yeah, she's one of the greats. I love her style so much. So good.
Is there anything else housekeeping wise that we want to talk about? Just about any more topics? If you guys have anything you want discussed or whatever. Robert was with me when I first did those Google Hangouts a long time ago, and so we that was like a mess of like, the reason we're kind of doing it a little bit more like let's talk about a thing is because they were great, but it was just so confusing. And so we're kind of keeping them in line more like this. If you have topics or discussions you want or you think that should be talked about, please let us know or lead it. We're totally welcome to you taking over Ball Contact and doing anything you want on that channel. It is for the community to play with. So you're welcome to do that.
I think I have one suggestion, and Tom and I had talked about this before we started recording, is tutorials, methods, what needs to be taught still, what, just the whole world around tutorials. That it's exploding right now, especially with people with time on their hands, that there's all kinds of things to come out. But I think we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Like how to make them, or that we just make them ourselves? What's the talking
tutorials about? In general, from ways to consolidate them to like I made a Wikia that has a bunch of tutorials on it, and I think every one of us has made some kind of compilation of tutorials, but maybe ways of figuring out what needs to be taught, what what is a good tutorial for something, what is not a good tutorial for something, what are methods that work, what are methods that don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I compiled a list 2 years ago, and it's been circling around. It's basically like a link to like one of my Google Drive folders where it has tutorials that I've watched to check if they're good in different languages, not just English, also Spanish or some Japanese. Like,
Yeah,
but
I've taken a look at that. So it is a really good resource, that one. Your list there is a good kind of compilation, and the wiki as well has got like good information in one place. And yeah, it's
And
like
everybody is the Wikia is open source, so anybody can go in and edit. So if you know of something that belongs on there, you're more than welcome to jump in and change it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while. I remember that it was when that .org went down, and I had a note about that in this thing about like we were talking about how innovation was lost at one point because we lost our meeting place, and that's what was happening. And there's been a lot of furious, let's try to find meeting places as a group. But you know, this is yay, this works. I just want to be like, hooray! Got some people on here.
But in terms of stuff going forward, I think that this is a good, because now like Sainsbury's, now is such a good time to be thinking about this, and like people who have particular things, like particular views that they've got, like particular things they want to teach, giving them a space to do it was always one of the things that Ball Contact wanted to do. Of saying, you want to put this stuff out there, like we can try and help with that in any ways that we can. Shout
out to Ben Clark. We want your tutorial.
Yeah, Ben Clark needs to join us in here as well. Advanced beginner. I'm gonna have words with him. And yeah, like in terms of things to happen, Brian, would you be up for maybe getting some in isolation? Can we work out a way to show that? How do we show that? Screen share.
You have to upload it, but it depends if it has copyrighted content.
Oh yeah, it's true. What if we're watching it for educational purposes?
I mean, I'm willing to help out in any way that I can. We should talk about that and see if there's a realistic way to get this up.
Because that would be so worthwhile.
I think we should also, you know, speak with the powers that be and those who created it, and make sure that's something that they're comfortable with.
Drew's got one there. Maybe he'd like to do that.
Go on, Robert. Were you?
Can I ask something really unrelated? Brian, does your cat have thumbs?
Oh, yes. Yeah, she's polydactyl. She's got a couple good thumbs there.
It's a Hemingway.
Yeah.
She uses them too. Oh, there we go. Contact juggling and cats all in one video.
Drew, we were just talking about maybe how the possibilities of watching in isolation.
We didn't talk about Bruno. Sorry.
Yeah, why didn't we talk about Bruno? My God, especially in isolation. That thing with the book is incredible.
Bruno, I reckon, still stands as one of the best examples of old school contact done super, super right.
His foot juggling.
Yeah.
The isolations on top of the fingers. The roll.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The shoulder stalls. Shoulder stalls, guys.
Anyway, Drew, we were asking about if you could talk to the powers of be to make a watch party happen for In Isolation. So,
because we think people would like to watch it and talk about it.
But I think that pretty much ends everything we have to say. Does anybody else have anything that they want to wrap this up with, or anything else before we finish?
I love seeing everybody.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Well, Diz, we love seeing you too. It's good to see you still back and active in the community. And there's Greg. Hi. And there's Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Yay, I'm happy you're healed and that you can join us again.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. And yeah, well, we're gonna keep doing this. Like we want to really try and keep a space open here for getting everyone back in contact. It's weird because actually we can be more in contact now than we were even on .org because we can actually see each other, talk to each other.
It's
So,
really
yeah.
I remember the old days on .org when we were talking about trying to get like, you know, a viewing party going on, and it was just kind of before that technology was available. I don't know that ever really successfully, never really took off.
Yeah, but now we have this space available to us, and we're going to keep this on the reg. We're going to keep pushing and getting people and asking them to come and share their thoughts and kind of, yeah, even just to come and talk. But the other thing though is we want to reach new people as well, because I want to know what's going on with new people in the scene at the moment. And it's always obviously difficult and it's a scary thing to actually like put yourself out there as a beginner. But if you can think of ways of getting newer people or people who are kind of talking to you about it and stuff like that, then just bring them in and yeah, trying to show everyone that they're welcome. Because
I'm chatting with a bunch of new jugglers right now. There's this dude from Pennsylvania, I think. His name is Nick Polini. He's like a really, really awesome footbag artist, turned contact juggler. And a lot of his friends got really inspired by him because he blew up a little bit. So there's this whole new wave of content, like Samuel from the Netherlands, T. Wilt. Like
the multiple.
Yeah, but like this 15-year-old kid that hasn't even been multi-balling for a year.
Yeah, sitting against his radiator.
Right. So I'll reach out to them and let them know that these meetings are not only a great resource to learn more about contact juggling, but also like who helped cultivate the community from the very beginning, kind of get a lot of the energies of what kept us going as we all grew to become friends and, you know, contact juggling compatriots.
Yeah, like I don't want this just to be us kind of, yeah, like having these conversations amongst ourselves. I don't want it always to be about the history, because I want to know what's going on now. Like not having .org, not having that space. So you see people at conventions, but we're not going to have conventions for a little while. So I want to know what the social media people are up to. And yeah.
Green Upright came in last week, and that was really exciting, right? He's only 2 years in, so. Yeah. Robert?
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about like different, and I think this is something from the last couple of years where there are different ideas on how to contact juggle. And I'm not talking about technique, but I'm talking about the way we train and we see juggling. Like, are we seeing this as like we're teaching technique separately, or we're looking into something like this is a part of performance arts? Like, and we're talking about how Joseph is thinking about it, or Van Kim, because like around here in Europe, there's a lot of sort of like a new, more interpretive movement happening at now, which is really interesting to explore as well.
The Buto dance fusion with.
Yeah, it's like literally separating your rational mind from your more subconscious being and just giving into impulses, but still building on that technique that's a part of you because you train that separately.
This is one of the big things which I am definitely thinking about at the moment. There's not to jump straight into the kind of academic side that I really want to get more knowledgeable about, because I'm not super knowledgeable right now, but this division of like Apollonian, Dionysian approaches, this dichotomy of very academic, very structural versus the kind of wilder, more impulse-led, has been a thing in the arts. Like it was, I'm going to say it, but it was Nietzsche who kind of put those names to it. I know, I'm sorry, but it was. He gave these words. Like he said that we are kind of by our nature this kind of push and pull between these forces, and he put the names of Apollo and Dionysus to it. But we see that, like, that's totally true. We see that in tech juggling versus flow juggling. We see that in contact between very clean, precise contact and very dancey contact. It's just a fancy, like, thing to put over it, like a fancy clothes to put it in. But that is super interesting. I'm so fascinated by that right now.
Well, and that's the thing about contact is it is what you make it. It's a very personal thing, is your relationship with your prop, and your relationship with your movement. For one person, it's artistic. Another person, it's therapeutic. For one person, it's a mechanical motion that needs to be super precise. Another person, it's just a way to loosen up. I mean, it's a very, very personal thing. It doesn't have to be boxed into one concept.
Yeah.
And I agree so much with that. I think the interesting thing, and to kind of pull into what Robert was saying there, like, people get very set in their ways at the same time. And they say to themselves, I am a flow artist. I just let the ball do its thing and I just move underneath it. Or they say, oh, I am a technical ring juggler. I only practice side swaps and very technical body throws. And it's, how do you let yourself balance these things? How do you let the push and pull go? And that's where your personal style comes from, how you let these things interact. Sorry, go on, Don.
Sorry, I thought that was where you finished. Robert, I would love for you to lead that discussion. I think you have a very specific point of view that, like, I've sort of been talking with Van Kim, so I kind of have an idea of what you're talking about. And I want to know more. So if you could lead that, maybe not next week with the, Fushigi debacle to be, our trauma to be uncompressed next week, but after maybe that would be a really great thing if you're willing.
Definitely willing. And I will also throw in the third view that you can have both the flowiness and both the technique. Like, there's so many different layers that are like opening up for me, like in the last year, where technique is something that needs to be learned. Like, it needs to be learned consciously, very thoughtfully, methodically. Like, you analyze your body, like how things move, how things interact, like what happens if this part rolls, that. But once that becomes part of your subconsciousness, it can be executed without having that insane focus on it. So it can be utilized in a different form of expressionism. And I'll probably have to move some stuff around, but it creates so much more stuff that we can just do, and how we can dance, because then that becomes the third or the other part. Like, that becomes part of your expressionism. Like, there's no separation anymore whether you're a contact juggler, you're just doing something.
Yeah.
The ball is just a thing.
Yeah.
It's, or not, like, it doesn't have to be a ball.
There's so much to be unpacked in there, and because this is what fascinates me. This is the stuff that I love about contact. Because it's such a simple, minimal prop. It's so open to expression. And yeah, like to say that it is just artistic or just technical is completely a fallacy, because we know it's a mix of everything. And we let the two sides just kind of like fight it out, and not fight it out, even work in unison. And the technical feeds not necessarily the artistic, but the technical feeds that free side, and the free side informs the technical side. And yeah, this push and pull. And like I said, it's this debate that's been going on in all arts for so long, and it's there's so much good thinking about it. I'm kind of just at the top of this like now, just at the entrance to the rabbit hole. But I would love to, and if anyone has any suggestions of like,
I think Drew's
stuff.
got lots of things to say, but he's totally muted today.
Yeah, Drew, if you
we'll figure that out.
if you have any ways to point me, because you're probably further down this than I am, then please send them to me, because I've got time to read stuff, and I like, yeah.
Otherwise than that, I think we're gonna wrap this up for today. I'm so happy you guys all joined us, and that we're able to be together, and we'll change it to Sundays next week. And if you guys have any suggestions on if we did this well or not, please let us know as well.
Perfect.
Thanks for hosting.
Yep, and even though we're going to stop recording, I can probably hang out for a second longer if anyone wants to just hang out in general.
I can hang out.
Because this room's just open, I think.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
yeah, if I can end, I think I have to end the meeting. If I end the meeting, I think it actually just gives me end meeting now instead of just leave meeting. We'll see. I can try and just leave it. If not, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's cool. Then, yeah, good. Speaking to everyone, and yeah, let's do this more.
Yay, awesome. We'll talk soon. Stop recording here. Bye.